Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're going to conclude our study of the Minor Prophets, beginning today by looking at the last book of the Old Testament, the book of Malachi. Malachi is, in my opinion, the last book of the Old Testament to be written, although many scholars, Jack Lewis included, would place Joel and Obadiah as being written at a later date, but it just reads like it's the end of the Old Testament, with the promise of the coming Messiah and some quite specific prophecies about the coming of the Messiah and the promise of judgment following that. The name Malachi is not known anywhere else, and it may not be a name at all. It may be a title. It means my messenger, and therefore it may be a title that some person wore. Now, if this is true, then this is the only prophetic book not to be named after the prophet himself. But there is a little evidence that perhaps it is a title, Malachi, my messenger. In the same way, Koheleth, the spokesman, is the title of the book of Ecclesiastes. So it's a possibility. For instance, the Aramaic translation that Jesus would have known makes it a title, and also identifies Ezra as the actual spokesman, messenger that God has sent, and the Septuagint, the Greek translation done by the scholars in Alexandria, Egypt, before Jesus was born, establishes it as a title, not as a name. But anyway, it means my messenger, and there's a play on the word because it is in this book that John the Baptist, in the figure of Elijah, is promised. God's messenger will come before the Messiah and announce the Messiah's way. And so there's a play on the word, my messenger, in the book. It's only 4 chapters long. It's not that long. It's written during a time of great spiritual malaise. And I don't know that there's a better word. They're just humdrum about their worship of God, and because their faith is weak. They have not started worshiping idols again. They are not committing the sins of their father, although that is perhaps a possibility, because they're starting to repeat some of the practices, especially of Solomon, that led to his downfall, which is pointed out in the book. But they just are apathetic. They are lax about their tithes, about their sacrifices, about their keeping the Sabbaths, and for a specific reason, not just because they're tired, not just because times are hard, and times are hard, because let's not forget these are pioneers. These are people who came back to a city in ruins and are rebuilding a city-state in Jerusalem. So the work is very hard, in some ways harder than just starting fresh. It's that they doubt God keeps his promises and that they doubt God's love. And so this book is very much a theodicy. It is a justification of God by God directly, speaking directly through his messenger, the prophet, to the people of Israel. And it's unlike any other book in the Old Testament in that it is a dialectic. In other words, it follows a teaching pattern that was followed throughout the ancient world at that time, especially by Greek philosophers, in that it follows a pattern of statement and then objection and then rebuttal. And the entire book is built around this form. God says at the very beginning, I love you. And then he says, but you say you don't love us. You don't love us, but this is how you know that I love you. And we have 7 of these in the book of Malachi. It ends like the ending of the Old Testament. It ends with looking forward to the Messiah, and it ends with looking forward to judgment. So I'm not sure exactly when it's written. It has to be written sometime before the conquest of Alexander the Great, and after the decree of Cyrus. So sometime after 536 BC and before 323 BC. I think it's probably written somewhere in the middle 400s, later than the days of Ezra and Nehemiah, but not a lot later. But that's just my opinion. So it was written sometime at that time, but the Jews thought it was about that time as well because they counted during Jesus' day about 4 centuries of silence, prophetic silence, and that would put Malachi somewhere in the middle 400s BC. We're going to talk more about the text when we're together next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.